Hello everyone, I'm Tracy and I'm here with Shane. And today's video, we're going to be going over the TOD redevelopment plans for the island of Hawaii, so the Big Island. A little background, this is the largest as far as land goes. So there is a lot to unpack here. There's a lot of different areas, although it's not the most populated island, but it is much larger as far as landmass goes. So just keep that in mind. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so before you leave. And also, please like and comment and share this video with others, especially if they are on the Big Island or if you have friends and family there. It's really become very important to be aware of these things, especially with that big hurricane, Hurricane Hone, that just covered the southern part of the Big Island, and we're going to go over that shortly. Before we get started, I do want to show you all the Sound the Alarm book that Shane and I and Stephanie co-authored together, and it is here. So if you want to order one, you can go to the mauibook.com, and it's also available on Amazon. And if you want to get a hardcover like the one I have right here, you would have to get that on Amazon. And, especially if you know people that are still unsure of what happened in Lahaina, or if they still think that it was simply a lack of preparedness and an accident, definitely have them read this. And I don't think there would be any doubt in their mind that there was more, that this was more than just an accident. So the Sound the Alarm book is available. And with that, I'll have Shane start out with the presentation of the Big Island.
All right, thanks, Tracy. So as many of you are aware by now, and maybe those on the mainland are not aware, but there was a recent hurricane that passed just to the south of Big Island, and it dropped a lot of rain. It dropped about probably 10 to 14 inches on many parts of the island, but the southern tip of the island actually got 2 feet or more of rain. And so these are the rain totals just since Saturday from Hurricane Hone that passed just to the south of Big Island. So that's a lot of rain, and it caused a lot of flooding, and there was like mud and stuff that got deposited even in people's homes. So yeah. Now I want to go. So the reason that I wanted to do this is because we've been talking about the other islands and how they have plans like transit-oriented development corridors and things like that. And it's not just on the island of Maui, which we've seen with the West Maui TOD corridor, but it's also Honolulu, where they have their TOD corridor, and it's on Kauai as well. Now, there is a lot of stuff to cover, but I'm not going to go as deep into into each project as I did in the other videos, but I will touch on each of them. So first of all, I want to explain how this works. So each county has what they call a general plan. And these general plans are their long-term redevelopment plans in general. And now what they do is, this is kind of like the umbrella term that covers various other types of plans, such as their community development plans and their transportation plans. So what I'm going to cover today are 3 documents, which are the Hawaii County General Plan, as well as the community development plans for 5 regions, and the transportation oriented development corridor plans for 3 other areas. All right. So the County of Hawaii General Plan was just recently updated last month in July 2024. And so we have a lot of new information and data and graphics to go on. And they've even been having meetings recently as yesterday and today. So today's the 29th when we're filming this, but you probably won't be seeing it until maybe Friday or Saturday. But there are ongoing meetings about these things, and you guys can go to this site and see the dates and the times and the locations to be attending these meetings to give your feedback. All right, so now one of the other documents I'm going to be covering is the State of Hawaii Strategic Plan for Transit-Oriented Development. And so part 3.4 covers Hawaii County, and they cover not just the TOD projects, but their smart growth opportunities as well. All right. So some of the zones that we're going to be covering today are North and South Kohala in the northern tip. And then there's also Kona on the west side or leeward side of the island. And then there's Puna on the east side. And then there's Hilo, also on the east side, but just north of Puna. All right, and so the three TOD opportunity areas that have been identified are Puna, a region of rapid population growth; Hilo, Hawaii Island's quote unquote traditional city; and Kona, with its automobile oriented settlement pattern. All right, so first we're going to go into this is something I've never seen before in a general plan or a TOD before, where they actually show a map of the fire risk areas. Now, I've often speculated that these disasters, such as fires and floods, are connected with these general plans and TOD corridors. However, I've never actually seen a fire or flood map in these plans until now. So it just kind of goes to show how closely connected and how much overlap there is between these redevelopment plans and the disaster areas. So one thing to look at here is that the dark red areas are the high risk for fire. And of course, the leeward sides of the island are going to be a little bit more drier on average. And so Kona has probably the highest fire risk of anywhere in the island. But one thing that Tracy noticed was kind of strange is that even on the windward side of Big Island near Hilo, there is still like a moderate to low risk of fire. But she had pointed out that Hilo, being on the windward side of the island, is one of the wettest cities in the United States, actually. Yeah. It says here that Hilo, Hawaii receives on average 147.5 inches of rain per year, and it makes it the wettest city in the United States. So that's a really strange place to be having a fire risk. And so I thank Tracy for pointing that out. Another thing that happened recently with Hurricane Hone is that while it was approaching Big Island, there was several like red flag and fire warnings for the leeward sides of the island. Now, this is during a hurricane, and it's not like a hurricane that's 600 miles away like Dora was. This is a hurricane that was actually impacting the island with up to 2 feet of rain. And so it makes very little sense that the leeward sides would be dry enough to be considered red flag, because a low relative humidity, I think is 45% or lower. And so it's usually 45% or lower relative humidity before they declare a red flag, which is usually not also happening during a close proximity of a hurricane. All right, so now another thing they show in these plans is the flood zone areas. And so you can see that they've numbered the different areas here, but I want to go to another graphic that shows each numbered area. So we can see that the most vulnerable zones to flood are box number 5, which is Hilo, and box number 11, which I believe is in the North Kona or South Kohala area. So it looks like Hilo is the most vulnerable to flood, and the tsunami evacuation map shows that in an event of a tsunami, almost a huge, large section that comprises most of Hilo would have to be evacuated. Now, the red area shows like the typical flood area that would be impacted during, say, a storm surge or a small tsunami. But the tsunami evacuation area covers this entire yellow area because it is a very low-lying area that is vulnerable to tsunamis. And Tracy actually told me that this area has been impacted by a tsunami before in the past. All right, so now I want to show a graphic that shows this is the Hawaii Community Development Plan, also known as Envision Downtown Hilo. This is their 2025 graphic, which will be updated soon for their 2045 plans. The meetings for that are ongoing, and I encourage Big Island residents to attend those meetings and voice your concerns. So anyway, this entire map is located within the red area of this map. So it's completely within the floodplain. So that would be the area on each bank of what they call the Wailuku River, and that's on Big Island. But yeah, so that entire area is located within the red flood area, and it seems like it's very likely that this area could be impacted by either a storm surge or a tsunami. And in that event, it would probably accelerate their plans for redevelopment. And also, it doesn't seem like a wise place to be building things that are in such a dangerous floodplain in the first place.
Mhm.
All right, so now the projects that are going on in Hilo are the Prince Kuhio Plaza Affordable Housing, which is going to be housing for workforce development. We've heard that many times in many places. They also have the Prince Kuhio Plaza Public Transit Hub, which is going to be a transit hub for buses and possibly a rail line in the future. They also have in Hilo the University of Hawaii at Hilo University Park Expansion and Hawaii Community College at Komahana campus. They are doing a mixed use student housing project there. And I will get into later what mixed use means. All right, so now I want to go to Kona. The Kona area, this is a population density map, but it comes really close to matching up with the fire risk area map as well. And so this is probably the part of Hawaii that has the highest population that is at the highest risk for fire. So now I'm going to go over some of the projects that are planned for these areas as well. So also in Kona, we have the Kailua Kona Multimodal Transportation Plan, which again involves a lot of pedestrian walkways, bike paths, bus transit, and even potential rail transit in the future. All right, and then we have the another Kailua Kona project called the Ulu Wini Affordable Housing Project, which is going to be more workforce development housing. And then we also have the Kamakana Villages senior and low income housing. So this is going to be more for seniors and low income. And then we also have the Village 9 Affordable Housing Project in North Kona as well, which would be more workforce development. Then we have the other area that's got transit-oriented development going on, and that is the Puna area. So there are two transit-oriented development projects in the Puna area, one of which is the Kea'au Public Transit Hub, and the other is the Kea'au Public Wastewater Treatment Facility. Now, one thing about Puna is that it is in proximity to lava flows, but it seems like this is one of the largest growing regions of the island. The Puna area itself is about as large as the entire island of Oahu. And so there's a lot of, land to be developed there. However, what they need to do is be mindful of the lava flows. And it seems like they're confident that building on the east side of this Puna area is probably a safe bet. But the closer they get to the lava flows, it's really risky, I would say, to build too close to the lava flows. But they seem confident enough that the east side of this eastern tip of the island is safe enough for development. All right, so now I'm going to show a little bit of this is the Envision Downtown Hilo 2025 sustainability measures. And sustainability is one of the words that pops up over 100 times in this document. And that just goes to show like how much overlap and how much connection there is with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. All right, so some of the themes that keep popping up in these general plans and transit-oriented development plans are things such as multimodal transportation, which means offering a variety of transportation options, which includes, pedestrian travel, bike paths, and public transit such as bus and rail. And they want to discourage the use of automobiles. So what they've been doing is they've been taking away automobile lanes to use for bike lanes and pedestrian paths and greenways for trees and things like that. And they're also reducing the number of parking spaces. A lot of parking lots are going to be utilized for those mixed use residential and commercial zones, and they're going to have tiny home villages and storefronts with the apartments above. And that brings me to the next topic, which is mixed use development. So mixed use development is something that they're trying to get into now because they don't want separate residential and commercial areas, because that forces people to travel between their home and their business. So what they're starting to do is put the homes and the businesses in the same zones, and they're mixed together. And they think that that will create what they call live workspaces, so that people can live much closer to their place of employment, and they can either walk or ride the bike. And in the cases where they're too far to walk or ride the bike, then they should have bus or rail travel available to them. Now, another theme that I wanted to show here is located at the bottom of this graphic. It says this measure, and many of these measures actually do say this, it says they were inspired by and implements the following philosophies and principles. The first of which is called smart growth. Now, these smart growth principles are another one of those names that comes straight from the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And you see that embedded in not just Hawaii state, but every major town in the world has plans like this. So most counties and most major cities also have plans that are based on these smart growth principles that are directed by the UN. All right. So now another thing that I found that I guess you could say is another red flag that I found was on the Kona Community Development Plan site, which is located, which is part of the County of Hawaii Planning Department. So literally, they do have a red flag warning at the top of their screen. This is something else that I've never seen before in the community development plans, which I've looked at extensively in the past. This is the first time that I've ever seen them offer like real-time storm warnings and red flag updates, which just goes to show like how much of a connection there might actually be between these disasters and their redevelopment plans. And another thing that Tracy pointed out is that this graphic actually shows a building with a blue roof on it, which is just even more interesting. All right. And that's all I have for today. So back to you, Tracy.
All right, thank you, Shane. So I just wanted to give a little, I guess, personal feedback on what I thought of these plans. A couple of things. First of all, yeah, Hilo is a very rainy area. I didn't know it was the rainiest city in the U.S., but it's just so unusual that they have a high fire risk. Or were there red flag warnings in Hilo? That is just.
I think during Hurricane Honey, they did have red flag warnings, but it was for the leeward side of the
Okay, for the
islands.
Kona side. It's just so strange that there is any sort of fire risk on the Hilo side. Something else is that they're saying that there's a fire risk when there is a hurricane coming. Now, a hurricane is almost always associated with a lot of rain, as we saw 20 something inches of rain. And I've noticed this theme that this is the third time I've heard this correlation between a hurricane coming and a fire. So I understand, yes, a hurricane does bring high winds and that could fuel a fire, but it also brings a lot of moisture. I mean, that's the whole reason there is a hurricane, is because of the high moisture levels, and it brings a lot of rain and it brings clouds, a lot of the environment that is not conducive to a very large fire. Also, I want to point out, for those of you who may not have seen the footage of Lahaina during the fire, they were supposed to be having a hurricane warning, or they claimed Hurricane Dora was causing the winds to feed the fire. But that day, the skies were clear. It wasn't cloudy. And so we know now from the satellite imagery, the hurricane was not even close to the Hawaiian Islands at the time. So it's almost like they're trying to tell us that a hurricane somehow increases the risk of a fire, which is very counterintuitive, at least to me. Something else that I remember from being in a hurricane is the time before a hurricane, there is virtually no wind. And from what I can remember, it's very cloudy and not really hurricane-like, not really fire conditions. It's very still, it's eerily still, and it's cloudy, so there's no sun. And so it's just such a weird correlation that they're making between hurricanes and having more, fires. Something else that I was also thinking, I'm trying to remember, I've been to the Big Island, but not too recently, so apologize if things have changed, but a lot of the Big Island is lava fields, a lot. That's a reason why a lot of it is not developed, especially Puna is very, very rocky. And let me just remind you all, lava rocks do not burn. They're actually used because they don't burn. They're used in fire pits and areas so that they kind of protect areas from fire. So it just kind of seems odd that they're putting all these, red flag warnings and things like that on the Big Island. And something else that you did point out is that there's a big area on the Hilo side that is at high risk for flooding, yet they're saying that this is the opportunity zone to rebuild. So what kind of comes to mind is that, by having a flood or preparing people for a flood and having the flood and having the hurricane flooded area, they could invoke a state of emergency and use eminent domain to reclaim the land. That's kind of where my mind goes. Is that kind of what you're
Same
thinking?
here, yeah. Yeah, so if there's enough damage to need repairs, then they could probably step in and condemn the property and then use eminent domain to take it for the greater good.
Yeah, and something else that, I mean, I don't know how far they're going to take this narrative, but I know, was it April is Tsunami Awareness Month in Hawaii. Now, I don't remember ever having a tsunami month. I think that's a new thing, like started by Governor Green. So it's just very unusual that they're officially making a single month tsunami awareness month, because they're almost like preparing us for a tsunami. Tsunamis are not common. The whole time I lived there, I don't believe there was any. We do have a lot of warnings. So a lot of times if there's an earthquake in the Pacific, usually around Japan, they'll sound the alarms and go to school and you possibly, you wait, but it's never actually happened in my lifetime, not like a major one. So having a month dedicated to tsunamis is very suspicious. Was there anything else that we kind of dug up that we thought was very strange?
To have a red flag warning. And it just seems really strange that they would issue something like that when a hurricane was so close. It was only 40 miles away, this hurricane. And so there should have been humidity even on the leeward sides, in my opinion.
Right. And there should have, I would say at 40 miles, the sun shouldn't have been as strong and the air shouldn't have been so dry with a hurricane that close. It's just another, I guess, red flag in my mind that there's something not right, that there's something else, there's another motive to these warnings. And again, for those of you maybe a little newer, the whole reason that I started reporting on the Lahaina fire is that these things are so unusual in Hawaii. In fact, it never burned, a fire in the last at least 100 years has not burned down a town. The fact that Lahaina was completely burned, almost the entire town was burned, is so unusual. And even in the, conditions where a fire is more likely, the fact that the whole town burned it's just so strange.
Another thing that you did point out was that the hurricane for the Lahaina fire was so far away that it was still a clear, sunny day. Yet somehow, and this is what I find really strange, there were water spouts underneath a blue sky. Now, you will sometimes see funnel clouds or even water spouts out over the ocean, but they always come from a cloud. There's always a storm system that's associated with it. Whereas these water spouts they were seen off the coast of Lahaina were seen underneath completely clear blue skies.
Right. And then, makes me bring up the video we did some time ago about the boat footage. And maybe we'll put a little card here if we could remember. I guess it's on your side. We'll put a card of the boat footage. Someone took really amazing footage off a boat during the fire, and we noticed some really, to me, unusual wind and weather patterns going on off the coast. And so just another one of those very strange things. And we did a post about the water spouts, right?
If you're talking about the community posts, I can't recall if there was one about water spouts or not.
A friend of mine, Paul, back when I first started researching it, left me an article from the Honolulu Advertiser from 2011. It's in a post. We can maybe put a link of it. But water spouts, did we talk about water spouts in Well, I guess during the Lahaina fire, water spouts are very rare in Hawaii. I've never personally seen one. I'm not saying that didn't happen, but when there were water spouts or like a water cyclone, I think water cyclone might be the official word, it was actually such a big deal that an article was written about how rare it was, and it did come along with very unusual lightning, right? Like I think that it was like they noticed purple lightning. Like there's a picture. It's just like the lightning is just coming down, and it's in
Right.
black and white.
I
But
do
they said it was
I do
purple.
remember the post now. That wasn't a post actually that was made not too long ago. And yeah, you can't really tell in the photo because it's a photo of a black and white like newspaper, but you can read the article and it does mention the purple in the article.
Right. And then we did. Um, I should have looked it up, but there was a picture that we posted about. Was it in Paradise or Jasper that there was a photo of purple lightning? I could be wrong. Take this out if it's not accurate, but we did have a photo, but we couldn't tell, like, was this a camera glitch or was there
Oh,
actual purple lightning or fire in one of the fires? Was it Jasper?
no, that was California. That was one of the
Okay.
recent California fires. That might have actually been Oroville, I believe, where
Okay.
they had some of the PG&E cameras were pointed at a bush that caught fire, and it was on fire in different colors, like blue and purple and white. But I did learn that the purple and maroon colors can be an artifact of the camera. So I believe it happens when the camera gets overexposed, and that's the camera's
Okay.
compensation for the overexposure.
Okay. So most likely it's camera, but I just like to point out
Right.
these consistent things that we're seeing with the different fires. Now that we've reported on so many, not just fires, but storms and hurricanes, I like to kind of connect the dots and show that there are these patterns coming out that are not typical. Um, was there anything else I was going to talk about? Um,
That's everything I can think of.
maybe Okay. Well, I really hope this helps. I know a lot of people have asked about the Big Island TOD plan. So thank you so much for your patience. This has been on the back burner for a long time, but when we saw Hurricane Hone came in and the changes to the TOD plans at the same time, we just thought that was unusual. So we wanted to get this out as soon as possible. And we didn't go into too much detail because there's so much going on for the Big Island. But hopefully
There's a
this
lot of
helps you
plans,
guys.
but I will put all the links in the description so that you guys can check it out in detail for yourselves.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that's gonna do it. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. And if you have subscribed, you can check. YouTube has taken down, especially I think because I'm just about to hit 35,000. For some reason, the subscriber count drops pretty quickly. So if you could check that and resubscribe, I would really appreciate it. And with that, thank you all for being here. And what do we have coming up? Um, I'm not sure what we have. We have a lot of plans. We have a lot of things going on, but maybe I shouldn't say it because then we're obligated to do it quickly. But
We're
we
going to be
have,
talking to some people and we're going to be covering some more stories, but I'm not sure which or when.
okay, yeah, we have about 5 or 6 interviews / topics planned, but we're trying to get them out as soon as possible. So with that, thank you all for being here, and we will see you all soon. Bye.